Safety has come such a long way that the higher level of the suspension geometry, tire technology, and other safety systems made all of the automobiles incredibly stable at any speeds and safe in any accidents. Not that a man cannot die in a car today, but things were much different 90 years ago in the 1930s, when a true driving skill was a must in order to drive a fast car in a fast way without a lethal consequence. This is why Tatras of the time became so infamous for killing Nazi officers. Tatra is the third oldest running automotive company based in Czechia and named after a Slovak mountain called Tatry, which was a part of Czechoslovakia back then. The brand had been employing a couple of very talented engineers. Among them were Erich Ubelacker, Paul Jaraj, a former Zeppelin engineer, Hans Ledwinka, and his son Erich. Tatra was about to introduce a revolutionary technology, a backbone chassis structure, which went on to be in use up to this very day in the latest Tatra trucks. This architecture would have a rear-mounted engine with all the noise, vibration, and harshness far away from the passengers. It would also carry a flat floor without a disturbing driveshaft and fully independent suspension. This rear engine was also a good solution for a longer tail, which played an important role in aerodynamics. Tatra was allegedly considering an aircraft manufacturer and hence understood the importance of aerodynamics. The concept which broke covers in 1931 was named the Tatra V570. It featured a twin-cylinder 854cc engine with 18 horsepower. It could do 80 km/h and a later owner drove it for 30 years daily before handing it over to the Tatra Factory Museum, though it was more of a test prototype before a production application of its features. Ledwinka developed the chassis, and Jaraj designed the whole exterior of the car. The real deal was introduced in March 1934 in Prague under the name Tatra-77. This was the first serial-made, aerodynamically designed automobile in the world with a streamlined body and flat underbody. A 1/5 scale model was said to have a drag coefficient of 0.245, which is an incredible number even for a present production car. It was based on the backbone chassis and equipped with a 60 horsepower 3-liter V8 with a walking beam style of the valve train. Journalists were blown away by how stable and confident the car appeared at a speed of 100 km/h while going as fast as 140 km/h. You may be laughing, but back in the 1930s it was lightning fast. Many could not believe how it could go this quick with merely 60 horsepower. Rivals like a Mercedes-Benz 380 needed a supercharger making 120 horsepower to go 130 km/h. So yeah, it was an amazing performance. The car was later reworked with a drag as low as 0.21 and dubbed the T77 with a larger 3.4-liter engine. The story of the 77 overlaps with its smaller and lighter sibling, the Tatra-87. It was about 10% shorter in length and over 350 kilograms lighter. The engine was very different, featuring overhead camshafts, a cast magnesium block for weight savings, and a power of 85 horsepower. While being only 1,370 kilograms heavy with a top speed of 160 km/h, it was one of the fastest cars on Earth at the time. It was also considerably more fuel efficient with 19 mpg compared to 12 competitors were achieving. The thing about these cars was that they became very popular by Nazis after they stepped on a Czechoslovakian soil. Of course, you take the best of the country you came to occupy. Nazi officers really liked the Tatra, as did Hitler, who saw it as the car for his highways. Soon after, they began using them and loved showing off in them. However, 7 of the officers died just during the first week, and many more deaths followed. It may sound ridiculous, but the historians found out that more Nazi officers died in the Tatras than in actual combat. Eventually, Hitler forbade his officers to use any Tatra from then on. With a weight distribution of 38 to 62, it behaved a lot like the first Porsches, which were also known for twitchy handling because of the heavy rear end. The Tatras were stable in a straight line and in corners under throttle, but as they had swing axles, which some may remember from the Chevrolet Corvair, these axles tend to tuck under when unloaded, drastically changing camber angles and causing massive oversteer. Many of the officers simply wrapped themselves around trees. Jay Leno talked about the story as well and advised to run 22 psi front and 40 psi rear wheel pressures. The car eventually became known by Allied forces as the Czechoslovak secret weapon. It is unfortunate that many of them were crashed, but considering the circumstances, we all may be thankful for that. Tatra unintentionally did the world a service, just right from the beginning of the war. Other than that, the Tatra 87 was a very solid car, which a pair of Czechoslovak travelers, Hanzelka and Zygmunt, proved during their trip around 44 countries of Africa and South America. After covering over 111,000 kilometers, with some of the roads being 100 kilometers long dried riverbeds, the Tatra never let them stranded. The duo came home after 3.5 years and handed over the sponsored car to the Kopřivnice-based company for inspection. The air-cooled engine, with fins filled with oil and dirt, showed very little wear. The suspension were great, and only the first gear was abnormally worn out because of more frequent use in tough terrain. The Tatra was actually the first serial-made car to make a trip from Egypt down to Cape Town on its own wheels. Some of the famous people driving or owning these cars were Ernst Heinkel, who produced the world's first turbojet aircraft, Felix Wankel, who you should already know about, a German general Erwin Rommel, a Soviet general Andrei Yeryomenko, and also King Farouk I of Egypt. One of the current owners is Jay Leno, and there was even a woman owning it. Eliška Junkova, the first female driver to win a Grand Prix event, more specifically a German one at the Nürburgring. The Tatra was a remarkable automobile, so much so that even Ferdinand Porsche took inspiration during the Volkswagen Beetle development and for his own cars within the Porsche brand. The tradition of a high-performance air-cooled luxury Tatra was kept until 1999 with the latest 613 and 700 models. The direct successor of the Tatra 87 was the Tatra 603 with a 2.5-liter engine. This one even raced between 1957 and 1967 and won several events.